Hi, my name is John.
And my name is Lloyd.
And we're the hosts of The Pint,
a pop culture podcast.
Lloyd, if you had to tell any of the people out there that might be listening to The Pint for the first time about anything unsavory or disconcerting we might do on the show, what would you warn them about?
Well, sometimes we drop spoilers, and sometimes we swear like motherfucking sailors.
Fuck yeah, we do. You heard it from him. You've been warned.
Listen in.
Hey, everybody in Pint World. My name is John.
This is a Hot Coffee Lawsuit.
And this is not the Angel episode, I promise everybody.
Boo.
A serious boo. I watched Angel 2 weeks ago, and Lloyd and I have had to postpone that recording twice. The second time was certainly my fault. I got stuck at work.
What am I going to do with this stack of Angel notes, John?
I know. Just hold on to them. Just put them aside.
All right. We'll put them in the corner here.
We will discuss the creepiest egg-eating scene of possibly all time at another point.
Spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert. But me and Erik were going to be coming on here to record an episode for the Pint Insiders over on Patreon. So I said to him, hey, look, I got to put an episode out this week. I have nothing kind of in the can. I have no movies to talk about. But let's talk about 2024. So usually here on the Pint, a lot of times at the end of the year, I'll have Stu on because Stu is like a nut job with watching 100 new movies a year and stuff like that. He's got all these goals set for himself and everything.
So you went the exact opposite.
I went opposite field. And I said, let me ask Erik if he wants to do kind of like me and Stu would normally do our top favorite movies of the year. And I said, let's do an opposite with Erik. Let's do our top three kind of up to this point. We're recording this on August 1st, so we're more than halfway through the year. Let's do a check-in. And I'm very much like you, Erik. I letterboxed everything. I've seen 17 films that were released in 2024. You have seen how many?
I've seen 9.
9. But in that 9, there's at least 3 that you can talk positively about. We discussed this. So it wasn't like everything was a turd. So I said, why don't we just check in real quick with the audience, and we'll go through our top 3 films that we enjoyed, our favorite 3 films of the year so far. That means that, I know Oppenheimer was last year, but we're not going for like Oppenheimer Oscar glory. We're going for the things that we thought were good stories, were a good time at the movie theater, or just fun. So again, as we always do on the Pint here, it's kind of a favorites thing. Erik, by the way, speaking of letterbox, I got to yell at you, man. Your letterbox is chaotic. It's very chaotic.
How so?
You don't grade most of the stuff you watch, and I don't know, I don't think you enter everything you watch. What are you doing, man? Come on.
Yeah. So what's the Hot Coffee Lawsuit rhythm? I go through these spurts where I do reviews, actually type them out. And then, so there you'll see a month and a half kind of thing. And then, and then it goes away. And then last year, I kind of had a thing where I was doing an Instagram post for every movie I watched. And that lasts 2.5 months. And you'll see kind of these short, weird reviews. They all kind of have the same format, and then I get tired of doing that. So that's what it is. You'll see spurts of review and ratings, and then you'll see other spurts where you just see what I watch kind of thing. So it's just really a lazy algorithm kind of thing.
All right. Well, get on that for 2025.
I'm on top of it, man. I'm sorry.
Get on that for us.
My apologies. Yeah.
That's all right. It's all right. I love Letterboxd. I've been logging everything since January 1st of 2020. The first film I logged was Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker. That was the first thing I logged. I've logged every movie since then. I love going in there and looking at my stats. And
forget about it, man. The only reason I watch movies is Letterboxd, because I want my profile to have cool movie posters, so really, if there's no Letterboxd, I don't think I'd ever watch anything again. So
yeah, I'm halfway there. I know you're kidding, but I've never forgotten, but sometimes I'll get a day and I'm like, oh shit, I didn't add Hard Target to my Letterboxd. And then I have no way of knowing that I watched Hard Target in 2021 as well. It's a great little tool. But
well, sometimes you can get a little sneak preview on your rating for like an upcoming episode because you've watched it before. So with Hard Target, I don't know exactly the stars or whatever, but because you unknowingly 2 years ago gave it away, or 3 years ago.
Yes.
Because I know normally if you watch something new, you don't rate it. So
I don't. I leave my ratings empty until the show comes out, as opposed to our good friend Robert Stewart, who just throws it right out there for everybody to see, so that like there's no surprise factor. And
but he's a tease too, because I was like, oh well, you see the little lines for the review, and you click on it, it's like SWO Productions link or whatever, and I was like, oh, that's extra work. I got to click on this thing, but yeah. I do, Stu. I read the reviews. So.
All right, let's get into this. 3 and 2 can be whatever, interchangeable, but whatever you felt was like your favorite thing so far this year. Will be number 1. Erik, what would you say would be like your third favorite movie of this year?
So I guess my third favorite is a movie called Love Lies Bleeding, directed by Rosie Glass. It stars Kirsten Stewart is in it, and Katie O'Brien. Everyone knows Kirsten Stewart. I guess Katie O'Brien was in like Quantumania, which I never saw, and was also in The Mandalorian. She's kind of like a bodybuilder, kind of bigger girl, beautiful, but and it's kind of like a Nevada, Las Vegas noir, where Kirsten Stewart kind of manages a gym. Katie O'Brien character shows up kind of stranger, in a new town. Kirsten Stewart's family, it's kind of a shady family, kind of a mobstery kind of family. And Katie and Kirsten develop a relationship, and something happens within that family dynamic. And so it's kind of like a violent kind of noir crime, steroidy, sexy, gory, more gory than you'd think. Like, so not total gore hound, but there's some gore in there. Yeah. So it's just kind of like it starts out as a relationship, and then the behavior of one or the other of these two girls goes bad and runs afoul of this violent crime family, and how they're going to get out of the situation they put themselves in. And again, kind of like a dusty noir Vegas kind of steamy kind of flick. So pretty cool flick.
Yeah, it's got a very creepy looking long-haired bald Ed Harris, right?
Oh yeah, Ed Harris is kind of like the godfather of this like crime syndicate or whatever. Yeah, he's definitely a standout, and he's pretty. I mean, he's awesome in everything or whatever. He's awesome doing his dance and creep show, but like he's cool, violent, like does some weird shit in this movie. And it's also kind of surreal too. There's some like surreal moments too, where is this real? Is this really happening? Because that girl is a large girl on steroids, and it her behavior is affected by it, and how the movie is portraying her and the actions that are happening around her is kind of affected by it. It's more than a steroid. It's a drug that's even worse than that. So although it makes her just buff and ripped to the max, it also affects her perception of reality, and the film kind of reflects that in different scenes. So if you're into that, it's I don't know. I thought it was cool. It's different. I haven't seen anything like it, so that's one of the reasons why I liked it. So pretty cool.
Okay, yeah, I wanted to check this out. I saw the trailer way back when, in probably February or so, and remember thinking this looks like something I'd like to check out. And if it dropped in the theaters, it dropped and left pretty quick, at least because I try to keep up and see a couple things a month, and I wanted to see that, and I must have missed the time period. I was too busy going to see the absolute piece of shit movie Imaginary with the horror movie. Is that a
bear? Is there a bear?
Oh, fuck yes. That movie sucked. I should have gone to see Love Lies Bleeding, but I went and saw Imaginary instead. Yeah. All right. So Love Lies Bleeding, I will be checking that out. My number 3 for the year, I had a really good time with it. It's based on a TV show that I loved as a kid, with one of the greatest theme songs of all time. It was definitely a bomb in the box office. I think I remember I saw this in the theaters, and I know everybody says things go to streaming so quickly, but like literally 2 weeks later, this thing was like available to rent on demand, which is even faster than normal. It was The Fall Guy with Ryan Gosling. It's weird. It's based on the TV show, but really all that really is kind of actually the components that fit to the TV show are the fact of his character's name and that he's a stuntman. He does drive a truck that's very similar in certain scenes of the movie, but overall it's just about this stuntman in Hollywood, and it's very much kind of like a rom-com. Emily Blunt plays a former, I think, cinematographer that is now a first-time director. They had a like kind of a love affair, and things went bad, and they broke up. And now he has traveled across the world out of retirement to be a stuntman on her first directorial movie. This movie is like actually quite funny. There's a lot of things that I really liked in this. Ryan Gosling is just effortless, man. Like, fuck me, that guy. Like, really, like look at him. He's good looking. He's funny. He's talented. He can dance. He can sing. He's married to Eva Mendes. They have kids. Those kids must be so good looking that when you look at them, your eyeballs explode. But yeah, it didn't do well at all. And I've heard mixed things from different people, whether they liked it or not. It's got some really good action sequences. There's one in particular that is a fight on a flatbed that has different elements, such as a dog that attacks people involved in it. And there's a lot of things going on. The stunt work in this movie is really good. I can't remember the guy's name, David Leitch, I think, who is the guy who directed Deadpool 2. And he was involved with the first John Wick movie. He himself was a stuntman. He directed this. So, and even actually before the movie, there was like a little bit of with him and Ryan Gosling where they're talking about like how this is a love letter to stunt people, and make sure to pay attention to all the names and the credits and all that stuff. But yeah, for a movie that like harshly bombed, once this thing becomes more affordable on Blu-ray, I'll definitely be picking it up because this is something I'd watch again. And it's got a good cast: Emily Blunt, Ryan Gosling. Winston Duke is really good in it. The star that Ryan Gosling is doubling for is Aaron Taylor Johnson, and he is playing a fucking huge douche canoe. So yeah, it's very fun.
Did they work in the theme song from the TV show, like in any way?
I don't remember if they worked it into the movie. It might have been during like the end credits,
post credit. Yeah.
Okay. They do work in a couple of cameos, and if you know the show, I'm sure you can imagine who I'm talking about.
Right.
But yeah, you get a couple cameos at the very end. I was hoping that we would get the theme song because it's one of the greatest television theme songs of all time.
Oh, forget it.
Yeah. I get hyped thinking about that theme song, and I'm not a country guy either. And that's like kind of a country song, but yeah, great show. Great show. And well, probably let me rephrase that. A show I loved in the 80s, probably not a great show to watch again today. But Heather Thomas in a bikini, Marky Post in a bikini.
Oh yes, Marky. Underrated, underappreciated Marky Post.
Marky Post was an all-time classic. I loved her in Night Court. Even when she had like that mullety haircut, she just made it work. She was so beautiful.
Guest star on Cheers. I think before Night Court, she was in an episode or two of Cheers.
Yes, you're right. Absolutely. Yes.
She's awesome.
Beautiful. She passed away like 2 years ago. So.
Yeah, sucked.
Totally sucks. All right. Erik, what is your number 2 movie?
Yeah, so like keeping up with like the action theme, or you mentioned John Wick. My number 2 is a movie called Monkey Man. It's an Indian movie, Bollywoodish, I guess. Directed and starring Dev Patel. He was in Slumdog Millionaire, so some mainstream movies. I guess Slumdog would have been like, I don't know, 8 or 9 years ago. He's super young when he was in that, so I guess he's like his mid-late 20s now. So Monkey Man, he plays, I think his name is Kid in the movie or something, doesn't have a full name. And the movie opens up where he's kind of a fighter wearing a monkey mask and kind of like an underground blood sport kind of scenario in India somewhere. So it shows him, kind of a bare knuckled, no holds barred fight in this kind of arena. And you learn later he loses the match, and you learn later he's basically paid to take dives. So he wears this monkey mask, and they, bets change hands, and it's all shady, and he basically loses every time. And as the movie goes along, you see that he's trying to gain access to kind of like, I don't want to say like the Trump Tower of a certain corporation / family, this tower that has like restaurant, hotel, and it basically is the headquarters of crime syndicate / political entity. Basically like the den of corruption that controls both politically and through force and through, corruption of the police, the entire city. State, province, or whatever. And he's trying to gain access to it by, starting out small in the kitchen and he's trying to work his way up to get, to meet more people and to gain more trust within this kind of crime, kind of shady syndicate. And you're just wondering why. why is he, what's his deal? Like, why is he in this ring? And, he's doing there to earn money, but ultimately his goal seems to be to make advances. Like, is it like a Goodfellas thing where he's trying to work his way into the crime syndicate, or is something else going on? Like the reason why he wants access in here. So that's kind of how the movie kicks. So I don't want to give away too much, but that's basically it. If you're not totally wicked out, and I've only seen the first John Wick, and I have only seen it once. It has that style of action, just frenetic, like The Raid, kind of like nonstop action, violence. You think Kill Bill Volume 1 with the Crazy Eights or 88s or whatever, that kind of set pieces in different parts of the movie. So if you're into that, like I said, you're not totally wicked out, it might be up your alley. And it's not, the story isn't super complicated or anything like that. It's pretty straightforward. You'll figure out what's going on, but aesthetically, the movie's great. Cinematography is great. The city looks beautiful. The set pieces, the buildings, some of the outdoor chase scenes or whatever are awesome. Almost parkour in some places. So anyway, cool movie. I like it. So that's my number 2, Monkey Man.
Well, I want to see that one too. I saw the trailer. I still haven't seen the last John Wick, but I am kind of John Wicked out in terms of like that type of,
right.
Like the revenge plot line. One man versus an entire city, like that whole thing.
Sure.
But Monkey Man did look good, and kind of changing up the setting to India or where it's taking place, kind of gives it a little bit of a aesthetic change up, which is kind of nice. So yeah, I'm glad you like that one, because I'm glad both of those are ones that I wanted to see this year that I missed out on in the theaters. So now that they're both streaming, I know that one's streaming as well.
Yeah,
I plan on checking those out. So that is your number 2. My number 2, that was kind of hyped up for a while. It's a horror film. I'm pretty sure our friend Scary Larry Dwyer is not a fan. But I went and saw this in the theaters. It's a Shudder film, In a Violent Nature. I had a good time with this movie. I didn't know what to expect, because before this thing came out, and I did see one trailer, it's like the whole idea is like you're following the killer in a, let's just face it, in a Friday the 13th like setting, in a
first person shooter kind of, third person over the shoulder kind of deal. Yeah.
And the whole movie is you're just following him from kind of victim to victim as he lumbers about this wooded, like kind of not a camp area, but like there's a cabin, and in the summertime, and at one point he gets his own kind of like I guess you could say iconic mask that they're trying to pin on him to make this character of his name is Johnny, like the next big horror thing. I think it's from a type of cinema they call like quiet cinema, where it's supposed to be like, a less is more approach. And it truly is. There's not a lot of dialogue in this movie. You're clearly following a totally silent character for the entire probably hour and 40-minute runtime. And only when you kind of run into other characters is when you get dialogue. A lot of people complain, and I won't spoil it, about the last 15 minutes of the movie. I didn't have a problem with it, but a lot of people are kind of like, okay, I didn't like what it did in the last 15 minutes. I do feel like it drags on a little bit at that point, but I don't mind what they did. What I can tell you is if you're a gorehound, if you're into like the kills, this is a kills movie, man. He, at one point he turns a girl inside out using a chain and a hook. And at another point he kills a guy with a log splitter, but he kills him for about 15 fucking minutes. He just keeps on repositioning the guy's body into the log splitter and cutting more things off. It almost entirely takes place in the daylight, not all of it, but and it's just a different, I'll give it a lot of credit. It's a different movie going experience than what you get a lot of nowadays, especially in horror films.
Is the main criticism it's just like too tedious just to be in that one position the whole movie, or? I think maybe tedium. I think that with the criticism of the last 15 minutes, I can't really tell you because it'll spoil it. But I think that's part of it. The very, very dialogue light. A lot of the dialogue is because you're following him in certain scenes. So like you might come across some characters talking. He veers off one way, and we kind of can only hear in the background. There's a scene in the very beginning where there's these two guys, a sheriff and another guy, fighting over like a property issue. And it sounds like it's going to become violent between the two of them. And he sneaks into the guy's house, and it follows him.
But what's good about it is you're curious as to what these two guys are talking about. So even though you're following him, you could still kind of hear their conversation.
Right.
He eventually runs into the gaggle of college kids that are there over for the weekend that are, going to smoke weed and fuck. And, and we kind of see how that progresses as well.
Right.
But yeah, I enjoyed that quite a bit. I had a good time with it. I thought it was something interesting to see in the movie theaters. And comparatively to some other horror films that I've seen this year, I'm looking at you, The Strangers Chapter 1. I just thought this was an enjoyable time at the movies. And if you have Shudder, it's supposed to come out in Shudder by the end of the year. And I think they just announced that the Blu-ray will be out in October for like Halloween time. So it's coming. I don't know if you have Shudder or not. Are you a Shudder guy, Eric?
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were talking to the audience. And do y'all have Shudder? I've had Shudder forever, man. I love Shudder. I know people like, if you want your like 70s exploitation, whatever, you got your Tubies and that's awesome too. For kind of the more standard like beef. Well, I'm a huge Joe Bob guy and have been forever. So like he's one of the reasons like I love the horror and genre stuff. So, but even before that, I just love the curation and their movies that I would have never seen otherwise. I love their Italian stuff and, so I still love Shudder, I still think it's pretty great. So I watch it all the time. Yeah.
A couple of years ago, Lloyd and I did an episode where we talked about our favorite, I think, Shudder originals. And
okay.
Yeah, there have been some great ones. I enjoyed it quite a bit. It came out last year and I don't know if it would have made my list on this anyways. Late Night with the Devil. I like
that. Yeah. Yeah. I liked it too.
I like David Dalmatian. I like the idea of it. It didn't hit on every note for me, but I enjoyed that movie.
Yeah, I did too. I thought it was pretty. I mean, they nailed like the aesthetic. I thought, like totally. Towards the end, maybe it lost me a little bit. Kind of where they went with it, and there's. It's supposed to be, I don't know, some of the asides that they have to film in order to keep the story going is kind of weird considering the rest of it's supposed to be like this found this canister lying there kind of thing. And there's other stuff going on. But yeah, I like the movie too. I thought it was pretty good.
All right. What's your number one, Eric? What was so far out of your 9 whole?
All 9, my deep reservoir of 2024 film going. So my number one's a movie called I Saw the TV Glow. Directed by Jane Schoenbaran, starring a bunch of folks I actually don't really know. But it's really the main story revolves around 2 people over the course of 25 years-ish. It starts out where they're both, I think, in like grammar school. There's a boy and a girl, and they kind of find each other through the love of this TV show called The Pink Opaque. And so it's like, hey, you like the pink? That's probably how we get friends. Hey, you like this? Yeah, I like this. Let's be friends forever. And that's kind of, almost how the way it went.
Right.
Where they kind of start talking about the show and they start watching the show together. And the Pink Opaque is kind of like a Buffy-ish kind of supernatural starring 2 girls. You see bits and pieces of the show as they watch it. And as the movie progresses, you kind of wonder, or the movie presents itself as, is the show more than a show? And how do these 2 characters relate to that? Are they somehow involved in the show more than just watching it kind of thing? So it kind of, it starts out about the mystery involving the show and is the show real or aspects real and what's real life kind of thing. But what I really like about it is you really don't know which way it's going to go. Like normally you present a mystery like that and it's almost like, let's solve the mystery kind of thing and let's figure, but it's not like that at all. The actions that the characters take really go in different directions and there's crazy time jumps. Like you remember Endgame where they jump like 5 years and you're just staring at the screen. You're like, what happened? Like, and it's kind of like that in some parts of the movie where there's this narrative and all of a sudden they jump in time and you're like, and it's kind of jarring, but there's stuff like that in the movie that I like where actions are taken and things happen where you surprise me and not a traditional narrative kind of way. And I kind of like that. Really, what happens with me in movies is I watch something and I like it. I kind of like it. And then I'll like listen to podcasts or listen to interviews, like in this case with the director, and hear them talk about the movie. And it kind of makes me like it more, in a lot of cases. Right. And that was one of the cases with this where I I really liked the movie, and I was interested enough to kind of like want to learn more about its origins or whatever. And she talks about David Lynch kind of influences, which I can see in this movie. Cronenberg, because there's some body horror in this movie, I can see that as well, and some other kind of aspects that I won't give away. That happens with me a lot, where it's either in reverse, where like I know you guys are coming out with an episode and I watch the movie because of it, or I watch a movie and then I go seek it out in like podcasts or whatever, and it makes me like a movie, maybe more once I learn more about it. So yeah, I saw the TV glow, and if you see the poster, it's kind of a young boy like staring at the glow, a purple glow of the TV, and the aesthetic of the movie. It's a beautifully shot movie. I think it's kind of like that, like a neon kind of purplish kind of a little mystical, kind of surrealish in some parts, but that kind of aesthetic, like a purpley glowy kind of thing. So yeah, I saw the TV glow. I thought it was awesome.
That's one that I've seen the title for. I've seen it like on listings when I'm looking at going to see movies, but I've seen nothing else about it other than knowing that it is like an independent horror of some sort. So I'll paraphrase and say, you had my attention, or was it? And now you've got my curiosity. Is that what it was?
Yeah, it's funny thing you mentioned about the trailers, and I don't know if it makes a difference, but for all three of these movies, I didn't know barely anything about them and saw no trailers. So like, I don't know whether, if I had known more of the stories in any of these, would I have liked it? I don't know. Like I seem to like movies like the less I know about them, or, give the movie more of a chance, maybe. I don't know. So yeah, it was with these, I just kind of like, you follow folks on Letterboxd and you see a pop, your friends are watching this, kind of thing. And I think that's where basically I got all three of these, just like, what folks were watching. And I just popped the, and they were streaming. So I just watched. So
go to my number one. I saw this early in the year, maybe February. I had seen the trailer for it at a movie a month before it came out. I saw it. I think I'm one of 9 people on earth that saw this in the movie theaters. It did so poorly that it never got released on Blu-ray. It's only on DVD, but it just received a Netflix release. And I guess I read an article that said people are discovering it now kind of left and right. It's a film called Land of Bad. It stars Liam Hemsworth, not Chris Hemsworth, Russell Crowe, Milo Ventimiglia, and it is about Milo Ventimiglia and his crew are, I believe, Army Rangers and or some special forces outfit that's going to surveil a compound of some sort, and they bring along with them kind of a younger drone strike operator, Liam Hemsworth, who is, I think, Navy or Air Force. He's not in the same branch as them. He goes along, and his job is to essentially call drones in when they need it to surveil. Russell Crowe is the drone pilot in Las Vegas, fucking thousands upon thousands of miles away.
You mean he's not an exorcist in this?
No, he's not. No, this is the one movie he made in the last 4 years that doesn't involve him being an exorcist. But it's a really good action film. Some pretty great action scenes, some pretty harrowing action scenes when the shit goes down. I love Chris Hemsworth. I've always liked him. His brother, I hadn't seen in much of anything. Just kind of knew that he was like Mr. Miley Cyrus for forever. And I think he was like in the Hunger Games. He's all beef castled up in this thing. He's like the size of his brother now, which I know, I don't watch the show, but I know he's taking over for Henry Cavill on The Witcher. And I was like, how can this guy take over for this guy? Well, after seeing him in this movie, I understand he clearly bulked up, and it's probably a result of that training done at this time. But no, it's just a really well done war movie. They cut back to Russell Crowe quite a bit, and it kind of reminded you, at least it reminded me, of the fact that Russell Crowe is a really good actor. And yes, he kind of went off on doing things that aren't great necessarily. Yes, he kind of got fat, but you know what? He's still Russell Crowe, and I like all of his storyline here. You get to learn a lot about his personal life. He has a partner, a drone pilot partner that he's dealing with. She's getting married, and he's almost fatherly to her. So you got this dichotomy of what's happening to Liam Hemsworth across the world in this jungle where he's outnumbered and possibly all on his own, surrounded by bad guys. And then you've got what's going on in Las Vegas. I really enjoyed this movie. It's on Netflix now. I recommend it to everybody I talk to. I'm sure a lot of people will check it out and go, if you want an actual litmus test, Stu watched it and liked it. I'm not saying he loved it, but we know how Stu feels about things.
I don't know what that means. I don't know what to do with that information.
Well, maybe take how you feel about my opinions of movies and then just factor in Stu's and then come out with an answer, you know?
Divide that, carry the two divided by. Yeah.
Carry the two, multiply by pi, and then determine whether or not you think that it's worth giving a watch. But I think it's worth giving a watch. So Land of Bad, it's not a great title. I hear that said a lot about this movie. It's a reference in the movie where one of the soldiers is talking about essentially like kind of like a place like where they are. It's a violent place. It's not war torn necessarily, but a lot of things escalate in places like this in the world. So he calls it the Land of Bad, which when you watch the movie, it kind of gives it a little bit more, I guess,
context there.
Context, yeah.
There you go.
If you hear it said, it sounds like a kid made up the title, but then there's a little bit of context there. So
that's an AI title generation.
Yeah.
During the strike.
War in Bad Place. All right, so those are the three movies that a couple of guys that do nothing but watch movies from 2024 are telling you were good this year.
Can we just say what the best movie of 2024 is?
What's the best movie?
Can we just say Alien Romulus is the best movie? I've never seen it, but Fede Alvarez, forget it. I mean, the trailer so far is the best movie of 2024. So
I have my fan experience ticket purchased for Thursday, August 15th.
Damn straight you do.
I do. I have it purchased. I will be meeting up with beautiful Bob Howard, our good friend, up at the Plainville movie theater
of a Video Dead fan fame. Yeah,
I cannot wait for this movie. I was actually irritated when I saw Deadpool and Wolverine because they showed the newer trailer and I didn't want to see it.
Did you do la 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 la? I'm not watching.
I didn't because
I would have taken the popcorn bucket right over my head.
Yeah,
I would have. Yeah,
I'll give them credit. I definitely made it like a half pay attention thing. I don't think they blew too much up. They did blow up what Romulus is. I won't say it here. It's not a big deal, but I was curious what that was. Now I know. But yeah, I cannot fucking wait. Here's my hopes for Romulus, right? I loved Prey, the Predator movie.
Yeah.
And that was after, a couple of not so great Predator movies, or at least, not as good as the first two, in my opinion. Aliens, the franchise has kind of been in a little bit of a rough patch. I'm hoping that this has got Prey written all over it. And one of the reasons I kind of hope that is because originally Romulus was supposed to be a streaming movie. It was supposed to be dropped on streaming, but apparently they had such high hopes for it that they're dropping it. They're dropping it obviously in the theaters. And I don't go to Cinemark, but I have to see it a second time and maybe go to Cinemark because they have the alien popcorn buckets. It's the fucking xenomorph. It's the xenomorph head. I'm gonna get that thing.
That's what I want to eat popcorn out of. That's what's missing in my life.
I am gonna eat popcorn out of it, and then like all the kids with the Dune popcorn buckets, I'm gonna fuck it.
That's right.
It's gonna be a good time.
Well, Evil Dead, was it 2012, 2013? Might be in my top 5 of all time.
I love it.
I love that movie. And anything he does after that, I'm all in. And if you take that and that kind of aesthetic and frenetic whatever and throw it in an alien movie and, shake it up in a popcorn bucket or whatever. And I mean, it's gotta be awesome. So I don't know. I'm hyped for it. I'm pumped for that.
I'll give a little shout out to our buddies at Forgotten Cinema. If you ever listen to them on their Patreon, you have to be a patron. They're doing a series called Lead Up, and they're leading up to Alien Romulus. So they're doing every Alien movie. They're doing Alien. They just did Alien vs. Predator. They're doing Requiem next week. So if you're a fan of them, I suggest you check out their Patreon. I am a member, and you could hear them discuss all of the Alien movies. You could even hear them discuss very poorly what they thought of Alien 3. Which was a fucking travesty, but whatever. I'll let it happen. All right. So Me and Eric are going to move on now and record an episode all about Jean-Claude Van Damme for our patron, our Pint Insider. So if you want to join that, go to Patreon /thepintinsider.com, something along those lines. You'll find it.
I'm sure that's it.
You'll find it. $2.50 a month. We'll
Just
get you.
Just walk up to John and hand him a wad of cash, and that does a trick.
I'll put you through, and I'll just pay it off based on that cash, for sure. So we're gonna go record about Hard Target, as we mentioned a few times. And until next time, see ya.
It's over, Johnny. It's over. Nothing is over. Nothing. You just don't turn it off.